These are the dominant 7th chords with a raised 9, a lowered 9th, a raised 11, a flat 5, and a 13. So they're based on the octatonic or diminished scale, the older diminished scale, on the 1, 3, 4, 6 string family on the tonic of B. So we'll start out with a standard B7 flat 9, B, A, D sharp, and C. C can go to D for a sharp 9. Okay, a bit of a stretch for another dominant 7 flat 9, B, C, F sharp, and D sharp. The voices collapse, the C and the B. It's a C diminished major 7. So C, B, F sharp, and D sharp, or a B over C. Okay, so that's how that voice collapse or exchange could work there, and we can bring the top voice down to a D, and of course in minor thirds, so it can be on E flat. All of those sounds. Here's one of the flat 5 sounds that we had, B, A, F, and D sharp, but we can collapse it to a C natural, so that's an F over B. That's B, A, F, C. Voice exchange between B and C. So that can move and resolve, of course, to G. So we just move it in minor thirds. It's in D, it's on B, it's on A flat. And this instance is interesting because we have a D over A flat, and then if we move it down a semitone, that resolves to a D flat major 7 with a sharp 11. If we notice, it's just the exchange of those sounds, the top voice, and resolving. Now going back to the original, the middle note, the A, the tenor voice can move to A flat. This is a 13 flat 9. B, G sharp, D sharp, and C. Top voice can move to D. Minor thirds movement, but now we can move that to F. So now we have some inner voice motion. So this would be B, F sharp, D sharp, and C. So we have all of those inner voice motions that can work out now. Also, we can voice exchange here, D and B. So for this sharp 9 chord, we now have D, A, D sharp, and B. So it sounds like a D13 with a flat 9. And again, minor third resolution. Okay, we can take F, and then D, and then the same thing here, B, A flat. And then we have that D, and then resolve, or we could resolve the G minor, B flat major, or E major, either one. They're all good. C sharp minor, doesn't matter. Those are all resolutions, traditional resolutions. So this one in particular, the flat 9, can be voice exchange for a diminished major 7 too. So this is a C, A, D sharp, and a B, and then move the top voice to D natural. And again, we can hear that resolve nicely, or to an E minor. So that's a fine resolution. This also relates to what we were saying before between the E flat major 7 with a sharp 11 as a resolution to an E minor. So if we just simply move any of the voicings that work or that are included in the sharp 5 flat 5, sharp 9 flat 9 family, and we just move the raised 5th either to down to a perfect 5th or up to a 13, we have a conversion to the diminished. For instance, this was a C minor major 7, and that comes from the sharp 5 and flat 9. and sharp and flat 5 and flat 9. Now if we move that to G sharp, we now have it become a member of the diminished chord family. If we move it down, we can see that it's still the member of the diminished chord family. So any raised fifths or flat 13s, as long as they're moved to the 13 or the perfect fifth, we have the conversion. Again, this is a good example of it right here. Any of the minor major 7 sounds adhere to that. For instance, here's the C minor major 7, and we said that would resolve to E minor. So if we have this, we move this G either to G sharp or to F sharp, we now have the conversion to the diminished sound. Okay. Now moving ahead, this sound also works. We have C, B, D sharp or E flat, D sharp there. So and that can exchange. So that becomes a part of that family. And that sounds really good, resolving to a C sharp minor. So we have that. Or an E or a C sharp minor in this sense. So any of those resolutions are fine. Again, going back to the tritone relationship, now that can be moved through the scale. So the top voice, this is B, A, F, and C. Top voice can move to D, can move to E flat as well. So any of those can be moved in minor thirds. And they'll sound like a diminished. It'll sound like the diminished scale sound. The sharp 9, which we saw on the sharp 5, flat 5 family, now works here and can move in minor thirds. We can see it can collapse. So it now has that sound. So it can move. So it has all of these possibilities now to combine with the others. The other diminished chord sounds, and then resolve. So we now have that sound available to us. And again, movable in minor thirds. So we have this on B, and we have it on C sharp, D, and then A flat, resolving to G or G minor, G major, E major, again, C sharp minor is fine, any of the B flat minor, any of the related sounds. So now we have this format. Or major. That's fine too. A major resolution is perfectly acceptable as well. Now, we talked a little bit before also about the minor 7ths. There being 4 minor 7ths, and that's certainly true here as well because we're working within the B. So we have for B7. So this is an F minor going to a minor 7, going to a B minor 7. And we cycle that down to D minor, to A flat minor 7, and then that resolves to C sharp, that resolves to E. So we have that sound now, and it can resolve to even E. So that's the basic pure sound. So that was A flat minor, D minor, F minor, B minor, and then D minor, A flat minor, and then resolved it to B flat minor. So those are all minor thirds, and if you notice, the voice motion is very logical for that. You've noticed this is a 6th, which moves up. This 6 moves down. So easy to play, and very effective. Getting back to the diminished major 7, remembering that this can be a part of a series as well. So part of this sort of planing series, this, we can move the top voice and we get sort of a 5th or 4th sound on top. So instead of B over C, we move the D sharp to C sharp. So, and that has a really interesting sound, and that resolves nicely. And that comes from essentially planing. So it comes from just moving the tone of the scale back instead of up, which could give us an F here. So, and again, higher, we can see it has that sort of a sound to it. So we just get what we can reach within the certain chord formations. So also keeping in mind the collapsibility of the voicings, the sharp 9, the D sharp, the A, the D, and the B. Moving voices one at a time. This sort of a thing. So collapsing and getting, that's a great one just to move the shape. So A flat over D, this is a D on top of an A flat, and vice versa. Do the same thing on B, the same thing on A flat, and the same thing on F. Finish it with a sharp 9, and then, you know, cadence with a B flat minor. A flat, there we can cadence with a D flat or an E major. So either one. So those give you just some rough ideas of what can be had with this particular string family on the diminished altered dominant. So that is the sharp 9, the flat 9, the 13th, and the raised 11th or lowered 5th on the 1, 3, 4, 6 string family on the tonic of B.